The movie begins in the dark corners of Seoul, inside a pulsating nightclub where flashing lights mask the city's criminal underworld. A group of undercover detectives quietly moves through the crowd, watching a drug courier make a deal. But before they can make an arrest, the transaction goes sideways. A dancer snatches the courier's bag and vanishes into the chaos. By the time the detectives react, the drugs are gone, setting off a chain of events that will soon turn deadly. Elsewhere in the city, a quiet man named Cha Tae-sik tends to his small pawn shop. He keeps to himself, avoiding conversation with his rough neighborhood. His only visitor is a little girl named Somi, who often stops by to chat. Despite his cold demeanor, she seems to like him. Tae-sik rarely smiles, but there's something gentle in the way he looks at her, something that hints at a past he doesn't talk about. Somi lives nearby with her mother, Hyo-jong, a nightclub dancer struggling with addiction. Their apartment is small, cluttered, and filled with tension. Earlier that night, Hyo-jong was the one who stole the bag of drugs from the club, a desperate act meant to make quick money. She hides the stolen narcotics in a camera bag and takes it to Tae-sik's pawnshop the next day, pretending it's just another item to pawn. When she leaves, Somi stays behind for a while, chatting and eating with Tae-sik. He prepares her a small meal, though he rarely eats with anyone. As they sit together, she talks about her school and her lonely days. But their quiet moment is interrupted when Hyo-jong storms in, calling for her daughter. Somi, frightened, hides under the table. Tae-sik quickly distracts the mother, pretending the girl isn't there until Hyo-jong finally leaves. That night, Hyo-jong's theft catches up to her. The brothers Mansuk and Jong-suk, ruthless members of the drug ring, are ordered to retrieve the missing shipment by their Chinese boss, Oh Myung-gyu. When Jong-suk finds Hyo-jong's apartment, he beats her in front of her daughter to make her talk. Somi hides in terror as her mother is tied up and tortured until she reveals the drugs are at Tae-sik's pawnshop. The next morning, Somi runs to Tae-sik's shop, trembling and desperate. She asks to stay the night, and though he doesn't show much emotion, he lets her in. By morning, she's gone again, the world outside too cruel to give her rest. Later that day, Tae-sik takes the bus to visit his wife's grave. The flowers he carries suggest this is a ritual, a quiet way to grieve. On the way, he listens to Somi's MP3 player, which she left behind. When he returns home, he finds Somi being questioned by two policemen on the street. She's accused of stealing a bag and points at Tae-sik, calling him her father in hopes they'll let her go. But instead of helping, he turns away and walks off, leaving her heartbroken. At a small grocery store nearby, Tae-sik sees Somi stealing food. The shop owner tells him she does this often, not because she's hungry, but because she wants attention. He advises Tae-sik to take her out sometimes, maybe help her feel less alone. When Tae-sik finds her later, crying in an alley, she asks for her MP3 back. She offers her lucky card in exchange, saying softly that she's disappointed in him, but she doesn't hate him. She believes that if you hate someone, you lose the chance to like anyone else. Her words leave Tae-sik quietly shaken. Meanwhile, Mansuk and Jong-suk's operation is unraveling. Their boss, Oh Myung-gyu, grows impatient after losing the drugs. He slaps Mansuk and gives him 3 days to fix the mess. The brothers split up, sending their men after both Hyo-jong and the mysterious pawnshop owner holding the bag. That evening, a group of gangsters arrives at Tae-sik's shop. Thinking they're robbers, he calmly hands over his wallet. They laugh until Tae-sik moves. In a flash, he disarms one of them, turning the knife against his attacker. The others freeze, stunned by his precision. Moments later, a large man named Ram Rowan enters, delivering a phone call from Jong-suk. On the other end, Tae-sik hears Somi and her mother crying for help. Jong-suk demands that he hand over the camera bag immediately. Tae-sik complies, hoping they'll be released. But as soon as he hands it over, Ram Rowan kills one of his own men to create a distraction and escapes, leaving Tae-sik with nothing but the sound of a disconnected call. The next day, Jong-suk calls again. He orders Tae-sik to deliver another package, this time directly to the Chinese dealer, Oh Myung-gyu. If he refuses, the girl dies. With no choice, Tae-sik agrees and drives the package to the meeting point using a car provided by the gang. At the warehouse, the deal seems to go smoothly until chaos erupts. Myung-gyu receives a call from Mansuk, who betrays him by tipping off the police. Sirens wail outside as SWAT units storm the building. Myung-gyu, realizing he's been set up, orders his men to kill Tae-sik, but Tae-sik reacts instantly, diving out a window and crashing into a safety net below. Gunfire rings out behind him as he escapes. During the chase that follows, He corners Myungyu's car, but the dealer slips away. When Tae-sik opens the car trunk, he freezes. Inside lies Hyojong's mutilated body, her organs harvested, her face barely recognizable. Tae-sik stands there in silence, realizing the horror of what he's stumbled into. The grief in his eyes hardens into something else: vengeance. Before he can act, the police surround him, believing he's responsible for the murder. They arrest him on the spot and drag him in for questioning. But when the detectives review the crime scene, they discover something doesn't add up. Tae-sik's calmness, his reflexes, his precision. He's no ordinary man. Meanwhile, Somi is still alive, trapped in a grim warehouse where children are forced to pack drugs for the syndicate. Among them, a cold woman supervises their work. To her, the kids are just tools and Somi, just another expendable courier. Back at the station, Tae-sik sits silently during interrogation. When officers mock him, he says nothing. But when they try to fingerprint him, they uncover something shocking. His records show he was once a covert operative for South Korean Army intelligence, a man trained for deep cover missions, long presumed dead. The realization hits the detectives hard. The quiet pawnshop owner isn't just some civilian, he's a lethal ex-agent who disappeared after his pregnant wife was murdered by a hitman. That night, while being transported between facilities, Tae-sik makes his move. Using nothing but timing and skill, he takes down 2 officers and disappears into the night. Now a fugitive, he's no longer running to hide, he's running to save the only person who ever gave him a reason to live again. After escaping police custody, Tae-sik disappears into the city's shadows. Seoul becomes a maze of neon lights, narrow alleys, and hidden dens where no one asks questions. He knows the syndicate will move fast to cover their tracks, and every minute counts if he wants to find Somi alive. His first step is to retrieve the cell phone Jong-suk gave him earlier, the only lead he has left. He returns to the alley where he threw the phone during the chase. It's still there, cracked but functional. He charges it at a small repair shop, asking the owner to trace the number or identify its last contact. The shopkeeper hesitates, sensing trouble, then secretly signals his men. They surround Tae-sik, trying to intimidate him, but they have no idea who they're dealing with. Within seconds, Tae-sik takes them down fast, efficient, and silent. When the terrified shopkeeper finally talks, he admits the phone was bought by a man named Du-chi, who operates an illegal organ trafficking business out of a local nightclub. Tae-sik goes there immediately. The club's music thunders through the floor as he moves through the crowd, searching for his target. He spots Du-chi near the VIP area, surrounded by guards. Without hesitation, Tae-sik attacks, subduing the guards with brutal precision. He pins Du-chi against the wall and demands to know where Somi is. But before he can get an answer, a familiar figure enters: Ram Rowan, the towering enforcer with cold eyes. Ram Rowan raises his gun and fires. Tae-sik reacts instantly, using Du-chi as a shield. The man dies in seconds, and Tae-sik dives into a restroom to take cover. Ram Rowan follows, firing through the stalls, but Tae-sik stays calm, waiting for his opening. When the gunfire stops, Tae-sik attacks from behind, slamming Ram Rowan into the wall before escaping through the back exit. Inside the crowded club, chaos erupts as the police arrive. Tae-sik spots Mansuk across the dance floor, standing beside Ram Rowan, who's still recovering. Mansuk smirks and tosses Tae-sik's phone back to him before vanishing into the chaos. Tae-sik tries to chase them, but the police close in, forcing him to steal a car and flee. While speeding through the city, his phone rings. This Mansuk. On the other end, he taunts Tae-sik, saying they've already taken Somi's corneas and will sell them to the highest bidder. Tae-sik's grip tightens on the steering wheel. His voice is calm, but deadly. "You'll regret touching her." He hangs up and floors the accelerator. He drives to an old friend's place on the outskirts of the city, a former military medic who once worked with him. The man is shocked to see Tae-sik, bleeding and pale. Without hesitation, he removes the bullet lodged in Tae-sik's abdomen and patches him up. As the operation continues, Tae-sik flashes back to the night his wife was murdered, the gunman breaking into their home, the scream, the blood, and the tiny baby shoe that fell to the floor. It's the same shoe he left at his wife's grave, a symbol of the life he lost. When he wakes, his friend warns him to stay out of it. But Tae-sik has already made his choice. Somi is the only person who's made him feel human again, and he won't lose her too. Later, the police track down information from CCTV footage. They contact Tae-sik through his old handler, revealing something unexpected. Somi is still alive. She was recently seen at an ATM, withdrawing cash for the gang. Relieved but still cautious, Tae-sik agrees to meet the detectives. In exchange for the information, They demand to know the truth about his connection to the case. Tae-sik tells them everything: how Hyojong pawned the bag, how he was dragged into the mess, and what he discovered in the car trunk. The detectives begin to realize that Tae-sik isn't the villain they thought he was. He's a man driven by guilt, loss, and a fierce will to protect a child caught in a nightmare. Meanwhile, in a dim warehouse on the outskirts of town, Somi sits alone in a locked room. Across from her, Ramrowan watches silently. His job is to guard her until the organ buyer arrives. When he sees the bruise on her forehead, Somi gently takes a bandage and places it on his wound, the same one from their earlier fight. For a moment, Ramrowan looks away, conflicted. Her innocence stirs something inside him, something human. That night, Tae-sik tracks a group of children making drug deliveries through the city. He follows them discreetly, hoping one of them will lead him to Somi. When he spots a van picking up the kids, he moves in, but the police interfere again, mistaking him for a suspect. He fights his way free and leaps from a building, landing hard but alive. He continues the chase on foot, following the van to a remote facility hidden behind factory walls. Inside, he finds rows of children forced to work bagging drugs, cleaning chemicals, their faces pale and terrified. One of them collapses, and a guard drags the unconscious boy away. Tae-sik follows quietly until he reaches a locked room. Inside, he finds Jong-suk, sitting behind a desk with a gun in his hand. Without a word, Tae-sik storms in and shoots him in the leg. He demands to know where Somi is, but Jong-suk only laughs. Tae-sik doesn't hesitate, he beats him down, firing warning shots around the room. Desperate, Jong-suk calls his brother for help, but Tae-sik rips the phone from his hand. The next moment, he pulls the trigger and ends Jong-suk's life. Then he plants explosives around the building and walks away as the drug lab erupts in flames. Elsewhere, Somi is taken to a sterile room where a surgeon prepares for the organ harvest. Ramrowan stands nearby, his face unreadable. The doctor explains that her mother's organs were already taken on Mansuk's orders, and now it's her turn. Somi refuses to believe her mother is gone. She asks for her again and again, her small voice trembling. Something inside Ramrowan snaps. He lowers his eyes, unable to watch. At that same moment, Tae-sik locates the gang's headquarters, a luxury high-rise apartment where Mansuk hides behind bodyguards and money. Tae-sik enters silently, armed and ready. But as he steps into the main room, something rolls across the floor and stops at his feet. It's a small glass container with 2 human eyeballs floating inside. Mansuk smiles coldly, telling him they belong to Somi. Tae-sik freezes, the color draining from his face. For a long second, the world goes silent. Then rage consumes him. He storms forward, killing Mansuk's guards one by one with lethal precision knives, bullets, bare hands. None of them stand a chance. The final moments are brutal, fast, and merciless. When the room falls quiet again, only Tae-sik remains standing, covered in blood. He lowers his weapon, breathing hard. Believing Somi is dead, he takes one last breath, raises his gun, and points it at his own head. Tears run down his face as he whispers her name. Just as he's about to pull the trigger, a small voice calls out behind him. He turns slowly. Somi stands in the doorway, dirty, frightened, but alive. Ramrowan, moved by compassion, spared her life and killed the surgeon instead. The eyes in the jar belong to the doctor, not Somi. Tae-sik drops his gun, overcome with relief. He pulls her into his arms, holding her tightly as if afraid she'll disappear. Moments later, the police arrive and arrest him. As they drive away, Tae-sik asks them to stop by a small grocery store. He goes inside and buys a new backpack, notebooks, and pencils, a small gift for Somi's future. Handing them to her, he apologizes for pretending not to know her that day on the street. Somi forgives him, hugging him tightly as he struggles to hold back tears. As the car drives off, the two share a final embrace, the broken soldier and the little girl who brought him back to life. The movie ends with Tae-sik being taken away, but for the first time in years, he's at peace. He couldn't save his wife, but he saved Somi, and that was enough.